Paranoia 1. In the heart of a bustling metropolis, the true terror unfolds, not with screams, but with the quiet fading of souls, one blank stare at a time. John Thompson was a man of routine. He lived in a small apartment on the east side of Manhattan, in a building that had seen better days. The walls were thin, the elevator creaked, and the rent was just high enough to make him question his choices every month. But it was home, and that was enough. John was 42 years old, single, with no kids or pets to complicate things. His days blended into one another like the gray skies over the city in winter. Every morning started the same way. The alarm on his phone buzzed at 6:45 a.m. He hit snooze once, then twice, before finally rolling out of bed. The sheets were plain white, bought on sale from a discount store years ago. He shuffled to the bathroom, splashed cold water on his face, and brushed his teeth with the same mint toothpaste he had used for a decade. Breakfast was simple. 2 slices of toast with butter, no jam, and a cup of black coffee from his old drip machine. He drank it standing by the kitchen window, looking out at the street below where people hurried to their jobs. John worked as an accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown. His job involved staring at spreadsheets all day, checking numbers, making sure everything added up. It was not exciting, but it paid the bills. He took the subway to work, the 4 train, which was always crowded. He stood near the door, holding onto a pole, avoiding eye contact with strangers. The ride took 25 minutes, give or take, depending on delays. On this particular morning in early October 2025, nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first. The air was crisp, with a hint of fall in the wind. John stepped out of his building and nodded to his neighbor, Mrs. Elena Rodriguez, who lived across the hall. She was in her 60s, always chatty, always with a story about her grandchildren or the latest neighborhood gossip. "Good morning, John," she usually said with a warm smile. But today she just looked at him. Her eyes were open, but there was no spark in them. No smile, no words. She turned and walked away toward the elevator without a sound. John paused for a moment, furrowing his brow. Maybe she was tired, he thought. Or perhaps she had not slept well. People had off days. He shrugged it off and headed to the subway station. The platform was packed as usual. Commuters pushed and shoved, but today it felt a little different. No one grumbled or sighed loudly. Everyone just stood there, waiting silently. When the train arrived, they filed in orderly, without the usual jostling. At work, John settled into his cubicle. It was a small space with a desk, a computer, and a few personal items. A photo of his late parents, a mug that said "World's Okayest Accountant," and a stack of files. His coworker, Lisa, sat next to him. She was younger, in her 30s, always full of energy, talking about her weekend plans or the latest TV show. "Hey, John, how's it going?" she would ask with a grin, but when she arrived that day, she sat down without a word. John glanced over. "Morning, Lisa," he said. She turned her head slowly. "Morning," she replied. Her voice was flat, like she was reading from a script. No smile, no follow-up questions. She stared at her screen and started typing. John felt a small twinge in his stomach, like indigestion from the coffee. He ignored it and focused on his work. Lunch came around noon. John usually ate at his desk, a sandwich from the deli downstairs, turkey on rye, with mustard and a pickle on the side. Today was no different. He unwrapped it carefully, taking small bites while scrolling through news on his phone. The headlines were the usual mix: politics, weather, some celebrity scandal. Nothing alarming. But as he ate, he noticed the office was quieter than normal. No laughter from the break room, no chatter by the water cooler. Everyone just worked, ate, and moved with mechanical precision. After lunch, there was a team meeting. Mr. Harlan, the boss, led it. He was a gruff man, prone to barking orders and making bad jokes. "All right, team, let's get this show on the road," he would say. But today, he entered the conference room and sat down without flair. "We will review the quarterly reports," he stated plainly. His eyes scanned the room, but there was no intensity, no engagement. The meeting dragged on for an hour, with everyone nodding along, contributing minimal comments. John spoke up once about a discrepancy in the figures. Mr. Harlan nodded. "Noted," he said. No discussion, no debate. By the end of the day, John felt uneasy. The subway ride home was the same, silent, orderly. He stopped at the corner store for milk and bread. The cashier, a young man named Raj, usually bantered about the weather or sports. Today, he scanned the items without a word, handed over the change, and turned to the next customer. Back in his apartment, John made dinner, pasta with sauce from a jar, heated in the microwave. He ate while watching TV, a rerun of an old sitcom. The laughter from the audience track felt forced, out of place. He went to bed early, staring at the ceiling, replaying the day in his mind. Everyone seemed off, but maybe it was just him. Maybe he was coming down with something. He closed his eyes and drifted into a restless sleep. The next day repeated much like the first. Alarm at 6:45, snooze, bathroom routine, toast and coffee. Mrs. Rodriguez in the hall again, just a blank stare. On the subway, more silence. At work, Lisa said, "Morning," in the same monotone. The office hummed with quiet efficiency, no distractions. But then, something new. During his morning break, John went to the restroom. As he washed his hands, he looked in the mirror. His reflection stared back, normal as ever. Brown hair starting to gray, blue eyes, a bit of stubble. But behind him, in the stall, he heard a soft rustling. He turned but saw nothing. Shaking it off, he returned to his desk. Later, while filing papers, he overheard two colleagues talking. Or rather, not talking. They stood by the printer, exchanging words in low, even tones. "The report is complete." "Yes, it is." No small talk, no personality. John felt that twinge again. Lunch was the sandwich again. While eating, he decided to call his sister Karen. She lived in Brooklyn, worked as a teacher. They talked every few weeks. "Hey, sis," he said when she answered. "How are things?" Her voice came back steady without her usual warmth. "Things are fine, John. How are you?" He paused. Karen always called him bro and laughed. "I'm okay," he replied. "Everyone seems weird lately. You notice anything?" "No," she said. "Everything is normal." The call ended shortly after. Afternoon meeting was more of the same. Mr. Harlan droned on about targets and deadlines. John zoned out, watching the others. Their faces were expressionless, like masks. When the meeting ended, he packed up slowly, the last to leave. On the way home, he walked past Central Park. It was getting dark earlier now, with fall setting in. People jogged or walked dogs, but again quietly. No kids shouting, no couples arguing. Then he saw it, a strange shape by a bench. It looked like a large seed pod, green and veined, about the size of a football. It glistened under the streetlight as if moist. John stopped, stared. What was that? A plant trash? He did not touch it, but took a mental note. Weird. Dinner was pasta again. TV bed. But sleep was harder. He thought about the pod, about the blank stares. Was something happening? Or was he paranoid? The city noise outside, horns, sirens, seemed muted. He finally dozed off around midnight, day 3. Routine, alarm, snooze, bathroom, breakfast. Mrs. Rodriguez not in the hall today. Subway silent. Work, Lisa's morning. But now more people. The entire floor seemed affected. Conversations were minimal, work flowed without interruption. John felt isolated, like he was the only one noticing. During break, he searched on his phone. People acting strange New York. Results were junk. Articles about stress, pandemics from years ago. Nothing specific. He put the phone away. Lunch sandwich. Call to a friend, Mike, from college. "Hey man, long time." Mike's voice flat. "Hello, John, what do you need?" No jokes, no catching up. John hung up uneasy. Afternoon, he saw another pod in the office alley during a smoke break he did not even smoke for. Bigger this time, pulsing slightly? Or imagination, home, dinner, TV, bed, thoughts racing. Something was wrong, very wrong. John woke up to the same buzzing alarm at 6:45 a.m. He hit snooze, as always, and lay in bed for a moment, staring at the ceiling. The faint hum of the city filtered through his window, but it felt quieter than usual. No sirens blaring, no dogs barking in the distance. He got up, shuffled to the bathroom, and went through his routine. Splash of cold water, toothbrush, mint toothpaste. The mirror showed his tired face, bags under his eyes, a crease on his forehead. He looked older than 42 today. Breakfast was toast and coffee, same as yesterday. He spread butter carefully, scraping the knife across the bread in slow, deliberate strokes. The coffee was bitter, maybe because he had not cleaned the machine in weeks. He stood by the kitchen window again, watching the street. People moved in neat lines, heads down, no one stopping to chat or look around. It was like watching a parade of mannequins. He dressed for work. Gray slacks, white shirt, a tie he had worn 3 times that week. He grabbed his keys and phone, then paused at the door. The memory of Mrs. Rodriguez's blank stare lingered. He opened the door slowly, half expecting her to be there. The hallway was empty. He locked up and headed to the subway. The 4 train was on time, packed as always. John stood by the door, gripping the pole. He scanned the faces around him. A woman in a business suit stared straight ahead, her eyes unfocused. A teenager with earbuds nodded to music, but his face was blank, no hint of enjoyment. An old man read a newspaper, turning pages mechanically, not reacting to the headlines. John's chest tightened. He looked away, focusing on the ads above the seats. Bright colors for toothpaste, a new streaming service, a gym membership. Normal stuff, but it did not feel normal. At the office, he sat at his cubicle. The hum of computers and the soft clack of keyboards filled the air. Lisa arrived, her purse slung over her shoulder. "Morning," she said, same flat tone as yesterday. John nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He opened his spreadsheet and started typing, but his mind wandered. He kept glancing at Lisa. She typed steadily, her fingers moving in a rhythm that seemed too perfect. No pauses, no mistakes. Around 10 a.m., he took a break and went to the break room for coffee. The machine was old, spitting out watery brew. He poured a cup, added a packet of sugar, and stirred with a plastic spoon. 2 co-workers, Dave and Maria, sat at the table. They were eating lunch early, sandwiches wrapped in foil, probably from the deli downstairs. They did not talk. Dave chewed slowly, staring at the wall. Maria sipped water, her eyes fixed on her phone, but she was not scrolling or typing. Just staring, John tried to make conversation. "Hey Dave, you catch the game last night?" Dave looked up, his face blank. "It was fine," he said. "No details, no excitement." Maria nodded slightly, as if agreeing, but said nothing. John sipped his coffee and left the room. His hand shook a little. Back at his desk, he pulled out his phone and texted his sister Karen again. "Hey, you free to talk later? Something's weird." He waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. Finally, a reply. "I'm busy, John. Everything is fine." No bro, no emojis. He stared at the screen, his thumb hovering over the call button, but he did not press it. Lunch was the usual turkey sandwich, eaten at his desk. He chewed slowly, the bread sticking to the roof of his mouth. The pickle was too sour today. He scrolled through news sites again, searching for anything about people acting strange. There was nothing. Just weather reports, cloudy, 62 degrees, traffic updates, and a story about a new park opening in Queens. He closed the browser and rubbed his eyes. The afternoon dragged. Mr. Harlan sent an email. "Meeting at 2 p.m., be prompt." John arrived early, taking a seat in the conference room. The others filed in silently. Lisa, Dave, Maria, and a few others. Mr. Harlan stood at the front. No papers, no laptop. "We will discuss productivity," he said. His voice was steady without the usual edge. He listed numbers. Sales figures, hours worked, errors reduced. Everyone nodded, no questions. John raised his hand. "What about the client feedback from last week?" he asked. Mr. Harlan paused, his eyes locking onto John's. "It's handled," he said. No explanation. The meeting ended early. After work, John walked home instead of taking the subway. The streets were busy but quiet. No honking, no shouting vendors. He passed the corner store and bought milk, bread, and a can of soup. The cashier, Raj, scanned the items without looking up. $7, he said. John paid in cash, waiting for the usual small talk. Nothing. He took his bag and left. On the way home, he passed Central Park again. The pod he had seen yesterday was still there, under the same bench. It looked bigger now, maybe 3 feet long, its green surface slick and shiny. A jogger ran by, not noticing it. John crouched down, keeping his distance. The pod had veins running across it, pulsing faintly. Or was that the streetlight flickering? He took a photo with his phone, zooming in. The image was blurry, but it made his stomach churn. He stood and hurried home. In his apartment, he locked the door and slid the deadbolt. He heated the soup in the microwave, the hum filling the silence. He ate at the kitchen table, spooning broth slowly, staring at the photo on his phone. The pod looked alive, but that was impossible. He deleted the photo, then regretted it. He turned on the TV, news same as always. The anchor reported on falling crime rates, her voice calm, almost robotic. "New York is safer than ever," she said. John turned it off. He sat on the couch, the soup growing cold. His mind raced. Mrs. Rodriguez, Lisa, Dave, Karen, everyone was different. And the pods. What were they? He opened his laptop and searched again. Strange pods, Central Park. Nothing useful. A few Reddit posts about weird plants, but they were old, unrelated. He closed the laptop and rubbed his temples. Bedtime came. He brushed his teeth, changed into pajamas, gray sweatpants, an old t-shirt. He lay in bed, the city outside quieter than it should be. He thought about calling Mike again, but what was the point? Everyone sounded the same now. He stared at the ceiling, listening to his own breathing. Sleep came slowly, broken by dreams of blank faces and green pods. The next morning, the routine repeated. Alarm, snooze, bathroom, toast, coffee. The coffee tasted worse today, like burnt grounds. He dressed, grabbed his bag, and stepped into the hallway. Mrs. Rodriguez was there, watering a plant outside her door. "Good morning," John said, testing her. She turned, her eyes empty. "Morning," she replied, then went back to watering. The plant looked normal, not like the pod. John hurried to the elevator. The subway was the same, silent, orderly. At work, Lisa's morning greeted him. He nodded, sat, and opened his spreadsheet. But his hands hovered over the keyboard. He could not focus. The office felt like a machine, everyone moving in sync, no humanity. He glanced at the clock. 9:15 a.m., another long day ahead. During his break, he went outside to the alley behind the office. Another pod, half hidden by a dumpster. This one was smaller, but it had the same veined, shiny look. John stared, his heart pounding. He wanted to tell someone, but who? He went back inside, the rest of the day blurring by. Typing, meetings, nods, and blank stares. Home again. Soup for dinner, same can, reheated. TV on, news off, bed, no sleep. John woke to the familiar buzz of his alarm at 6:45 a.m. He hit snooze, lay still for a moment, then dragged himself out of bed. The apartment was cold, the radiator clanking softly. He shuffled to the bathroom, splashed water on his face, and brushed his teeth. The mint toothpaste tasted sharp, almost metallic today. He avoided the mirror, not wanting to see the exhaustion in his own eyes. Breakfast was the same. 2 slices of toast, butter scraped thin, and black coffee from the machine that needed cleaning. He stood by the kitchen window, sipping slowly. Outside the street was a steady stream of people, heads down, moving in sync like ants in a line. No one laughed or shouted. No kids ran around. Just quiet steps on concrete. He dressed in his usual work clothes, gray slacks, white shirt, same faded tie. His shoes needed polishing, but he didn't care. He grabbed his phone and keys, hesitating at the door. The hallway felt like a trap waiting to spring. He opened it slowly. No Mrs. Rodriguez today. Just silence. He locked the door and took the stairs, avoiding the elevator. The subway was packed, as always. John stood by the door, clutching the pole. He watched the passengers. A man in a suit read an email on his phone, his face blank. A woman with a stroller stared ahead, not cooing at her baby. The baby didn't cry either, just sat there, eyes wide and empty. John's throat tightened. He focused on the floor, counting the scuff marks to calm himself. At the office, he settled into his cubicle. The hum of computers was the only sound. Lisa arrived, her purse slung over her shoulder. "Morning," she said, voice flat as ever. John mumbled a reply and opened his spreadsheet. The numbers blurred together. He couldn't concentrate. His mind kept drifting to the pod in the park, the one by the dumpster. Were they connected to the way people were acting? During his morning break, he skipped the break room coffee and went to the office library, a small room with outdated manuals and a few computers. He sat at one, opened a browser and typed, "Strange Pods, New York City." The results were useless. Gardening blogs, a sci-fi movie review, ads for plant delivery. He tried People Acting Weird NYC 2025, nothing but old articles about mental health and post-pandemic stress. He leaned back, rubbing his eyes. Maybe he was losing it. He thought about the movie he'd seen years ago, something about alien pods replacing people. It was fiction, but the memory gnawed at him. He searched body snatchers pods. The results mentioned a 1978 film describing how pods grew duplicates that took over humans, erasing their emotions. John's pulse quickened. It was just a movie, but the pods he'd seen looked real. Too real. He left the library and returned to his desk. Lunch was the turkey sandwich again, from the deli downstairs. He ate slowly, the bread dry in his mouth. The pickle was soggy, the mustard too sharp. He checked his phone. No new messages from Karen or Mike. He sent another text to Karen. "Really need to talk. Call me?" No reply. The afternoon meeting was a repeat of yesterday. Mr. Harlan stood at the front, no energy in his voice. "We are on track," he said, listing more numbers. "Sales up, errors down." Everyone nodded, their faces blank. John didn't speak this time. He just watched, counting how many people avoided eye contact. All of them. After work, he decided to go back to Central Park. He needed to see the pod again, to prove it wasn't his imagination. The air was chilly, the sky gray. The park was quieter than usual, no street musicians, no kids playing. He found the bench from before. The pod was still there, bigger now, almost 4 feet long. Its green surface glistened, veins pulsing faintly under the fading daylight. John crouched, keeping his distance. He took another photo, clearer this time. The pod looked alive, like it was breathing. A jogger passed by, not glancing at it. John stood and followed the path deeper into the park. He saw another pod near a tree, half hidden by leaves. Then another by a trash can. They were everywhere, tucked into corners, ignored by everyone else. His heart pounded. He turned back, walking fast toward home. At the corner store, he bought more bread, milk, and a can of soup, same as yesterday. Raj, the cashier, scanned the items in silence. $6.50, he said, no expression. John paid and left, clutching the bag. The streets were too quiet again. No honking, no chatter, just footsteps. Back in his apartment, he locked the door, slid the deadbolt, and added the chain for good measure. He heated the soup, the microwave humming. He ate at the table, spooning broth slowly, staring at the pod photo on his phone. The veins seemed to move in the image, but that couldn't be right. He zoomed in, his hands trembling. It looked like something was inside, a shape forming. He deleted the photo again, his breath shallow. He turned on the TV. The news anchor, a woman with perfect hair, spoke in that same calm, robotic tone. Crime rates continue to drop. "New York is thriving." John muted it. He didn't trust the news anymore. He opened his laptop and tried searching again. Pods replacing people. More movie references, a few conspiracy forums, but nothing solid. One post caught his eye, a user claiming to have seen weird plants in Brooklyn. The post was deleted while he read it. He refreshed the page. Gone. He closed the laptop and sat on the couch, the soup cold now. His mind raced. The pods, the blank stares, the silence, it was all connected. But how? And why was he the only one noticing? He thought about calling the police, but what would he say? People are acting weird and there are pods in the park. They'd think he was crazy. Bedtime came. He brushed his teeth, changed into pajamas, same gray sweatpants, same old t-shirt. He lay in bed, the city outside eerily quiet. No sirens, no voices. Just the faint hum of traffic, softer than it should be. He thought about Karen, Mike, Lisa, Mrs. Rodriguez. Were they gone? Replaced? He didn't know what to believe. Sleep was fitful. Dreams of pods opening, shapes crawling out, faces like his own but empty. He woke at 3 a.m. sweating, heart racing. He checked his phone, no messages. He got up, drank a glass of water, and sat by the window. The street was empty, but he saw something in the alley across from his building. Another pod glowing faintly under a streetlight. He blinked, and it was still there. Morning came. Alarm, snooze, bathroom, toast, coffee. The coffee tasted worse, like dirt. He dressed, grabbed his bag, and stepped into the hallway. Mrs. Rodriguez was there, holding a broom, sweeping slowly. "Morning," John said. She looked up, her eyes hollow. "Morning," she replied, then kept sweeping. He hurried to the elevator, his skin crawling. The subway was the same, silent, orderly. At work, Lisa's morning greeted him. He nodded, sat, and stared at his screen. The numbers meant nothing now. He kept thinking about the pods. He needed to do something, but what? He spent the day typing, pretending to work, while his mind spun. During his break, he went to the alley again. The pod by the dumpster was bigger, veins thicker. He didn't touch it. He went back inside, the day dragging on. Meetings, nods, blank stares. Home, soup, TV off, bed, no sleep. John woke to the same alarm at 6:45 a.m., the buzz cutting through the quiet of his apartment. He hit snooze, lingered in bed, his eyes tracing cracks in the ceiling. The air felt heavy, like the city was holding its breath. He got up, shuffled to the bathroom, and splashed cold water on his face. The mirror showed a man he barely recognized, pale, with dark circles under his eyes. He brushed his teeth, the mint toothpaste sharp and unpleasant, like it had gone bad. Breakfast was routine: 2 slices of toast, butter spread thin, and coffee that tasted like sludge. He stood by the kitchen window, sipping slowly, watching the street below. People moved in perfect rhythm, no one rushing or pausing. A delivery man on a bike glided by, his face blank. A woman walked her dog, but the dog didn't pull or bark, just trotted along, eyes dull. John's stomach twisted. He set the mug down, the coffee half finished. He dressed in the same gray slacks, white shirt, and worn tie. His shoes scuffed against the floor as he grabbed his phone and keys. At the door he hesitated, hand on the knob. The hallway felt like a tunnel closing in. He opened it slowly. No Mrs. Rodriguez, just the faint smell of cleaning fluid and silence. He locked up and took the stairs, his footsteps echoing. The subway was packed, as always. John stood by the door, gripping the pole tightly. He scanned the faces. A man in a hoodie stared at his phone, no expression. A woman with headphones sat still, her eyes fixed on nothing. A child held his mother's hand, but neither spoke. The train rattled along, the silence louder than the clatter of wheels. John counted stops to keep his mind steady, 6 more to his station. At the office, he sat at his cubicle, the hum of computers a constant drone. Lisa arrived, her purse slung over her shoulder. "Morning," she said, voice flat as a machine. John nodded, avoiding her eyes. He opened his spreadsheet, but the numbers swam. His thoughts kept circling back to the pods. Central Park, the alley, the one he saw from his window. They were spreading, and no one seemed to care. During his morning break, he went to the break room. The coffee machine sputtered, spitting out weak brew. He poured a cup, skipped the sugar, and stirred it with a wooden stick. Dave and Maria were there again, eating sandwiches wrapped in foil. They chewed in sync, staring at the table. John tried to talk. "Hey, Maria, how's your project going?" She looked up, her eyes empty. "It's fine," she said. Dave nodded, saying nothing. John left, the coffee untouched. Back at his desk, he checked his phone. No reply from Karen. He texted Mike again. "You free?" Something's off with everyone. No response. He opened his email, hoping for something normal. Just work messages. Reports due. Meeting reminders. Mr. Harlan's email read, "Focus on efficiency." No signature, no personality. Lunch was the turkey sandwich, same as always. The bread was stale, the mustard sharp enough to sting his nose. He ate at his desk, scrolling through news sites. "New York sees record low crime," one headline said. Another, "City productivity at all-time high." The article sounded positive, but the words felt hollow. He closed the browser and rubbed his temples. After lunch, he decided to visit Karen. He couldn't wait anymore. He left work early, telling Mr. Harlan he felt sick. His boss nodded, no questions, no concern. John took the subway to Brooklyn, the ride silent except for the train's hum. At Karen's building, he buzzed her apartment. No answer. He buzzed again. Finally, her voice crackled through. "Come up." Karen's apartment was on the 5th floor, a small place cluttered with books and plants. She opened the door, her face blank. "Hi, John," she said. No smile, no hug. She wore a gray sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back tightly. "Want tea?" she asked, voice flat. John nodded, uneasy. They sat in her living room, a tray of tea on the coffee table. The tea was plain, no sugar or lemon. John sipped, the liquid lukewarm. "Karen, you okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I'm fine. Work is fine. Everything is fine." No bro, no laughter. John's eyes wandered to the balcony. There, in a corner, was a pod, green, veined, about 3 feet long. It glistened in the fading light. "What's that?" he asked, pointing. Karen glanced at it. "A plant," she said, no emotion. "I got it last week." John's heart raced. He set the tea down, his hand shaking. "It looks weird," he said. Karen shrugged. "It's fine." He stood, making an excuse about work. "Gotta go," he said. She nodded, walking him to the door. Her eyes never warmed. Outside, the streets were quiet. John walked fast, his breath short. He passed a bodega, its lights dim. Inside, the clerk stood still, scanning items for a customer who didn't speak. John kept moving. Near a bus stop, he saw another pod tucked behind a bench. Bigger than the others, its veins pulsing faintly. He didn't stop. Back home, he locked the door, deadbolt chain. He heated soup, same can, same hum from the microwave. He ate at the table, spooning broth slowly. The TV stayed off. He couldn't stand the news anymore. He opened his laptop, searching again. Pods Brooklyn 2025. A single forum post appeared titled Weird Plant Thing. It described a pod in a backyard, but before John could read more, the page refreshed, and it was gone. He slammed the laptop shut. He sat on the couch, staring at the wall. The pods were everywhere. Park, alley, Karen's balcony. And people, Mrs. Rodriguez, Lisa, Karen, everyone, were changing. He thought about running, leaving the city. But where would he go? He checked his phone again. No messages. He texted Mike one last time. Please, call me. Nothing. Bedtime came. He brushed his teeth, the toothpaste bitter now. He changed into pajamas, gray sweatpants, old t-shirt. In bed, he lay awake, the city too quiet outside. He heard a faint rustling, like leaves from the hallway. He got up, checked the peephole. Nothing, just shadows. He went back to bed, heart pounding. Morning came. Alarm, snooze, bathroom, toast, coffee. The coffee tasted like ash. He dressed, same clothes, same tie. In the hallway, Mrs. Rodriguez was there holding a mop, cleaning the floor. Morning, John said. She looked up, eyes hollow. Morning, she replied, then kept mopping. He took the stairs. The subway was silent, faces blank. At work, Lisa's morning was a drone. John sat, stared at his screen, and typed nothing. During his break, he went to the alley. The pod by the dumpster was gone. In its place, a new one, smaller but growing fast. He backed away, his breath catching. The day dragged. Meetings, nods, blank stares. Lunch was the sandwich, barely eaten. Home, soup, no TV, bed, no sleep. John woke to the alarm's buzz at 6:45 a.m., the sound jarring in the stillness of his apartment. He hit snooze, lay in bed, and stared at the ceiling, his eyes tracing familiar cracks. The room felt colder than usual, the radiator silent. He dragged himself up, shuffled to the bathroom, and splashed water on his face. The mirror showed a gaunt man, his cheeks hollow, eyes sunken. He brushed his teeth, the toothpaste tasting like chalk now, no hint of mint. He spat, rinsed, and avoided his reflection. Breakfast was the same, 2 slices of toast, butter scraped thin, coffee bitter and grainy. He stood by the kitchen window, mug in hand, watching the street. People moved like shadows, their steps synchronized, no one speaking or smiling. A man in a coat walked a dog that didn't wag its tail. A jogger ran by, face blank, no sweat on his brow despite the pace. John's hands trembled. He set the mug down, coffee untouched. He dressed in the usual gray slacks, white shirt, faded tie. His shoes felt tight, the soles worn thin. He grabbed his phone, keys, and a small backpack he'd packed the night before. Water, granola bars, a change of clothes. He had to get out of the city. The pods, the blank faces, Karen's cold voice. It was too much. He needed to leave, find somewhere safe, if such a place existed. At the door, he paused, hand on the knob. The hallway felt like a threat. He opened it slowly. No, Mrs. Rodriguez. Just the faint hum of the building's pipes. He locked up, took the stairs, and stepped outside. The air was crisp, the sky gray. He walked to the subway, head down, avoiding eye contact. The 4 train was packed, silent as ever. John stood by the door, gripping the pole. A woman in a scarf stared at the floor, her eyes empty. A man with a briefcase typed on his phone, no expression. A teenager leaned against the wall, earbuds in, but his face showed no rhythm, no life. John counted stops, 5 to go. His heart pounded. He glanced at his phone, no messages. Karen hadn't replied. Mike hadn't either. At the office, he didn't go inside. He stood across the street watching. Lisa arrived, her purse slung over her shoulder. Dave followed, carrying a coffee cup he didn't drink from. They moved like robots, no hesitation, no chatter. John turned away, heading to a car rental place he'd looked up last night. He couldn't stay here. The rental office was a small storefront, fluorescent lights buzzing. The clerk, a young woman, looked up as he entered. "Car?" she asked, voice flat. John nodded. "Something cheap. One day." She handed him keys to a compact sedan. No questions, no small talk. He signed the papers, his hand shaking, and left with the keys. He found the car in a nearby lot, a gray Toyota, scratched but functional. He got in, adjusted the mirrors, and drove toward the highway. The streets were quiet, traffic flowing too smoothly. No honking, no road rage. Everyone drove perfectly, like they shared one mind. John gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. He passed a park, another pod visible near a tree, its green surface glinting. He didn't stop. At the Lincoln Tunnel there was a checkpoint. 2 police officers stood by a barricade, their faces blank. One waved him forward. "Destination?" the officer asked, voice monotone. John swallowed. "Visiting family, upstate." The officer nodded, no follow-up, and waved him through. John's hands shook as he drove into the tunnel, the lights flickering overhead. Outside the city, the world didn't feel safer. He drove for an hour, passing towns that looked too orderly, people mowing lawns in unison, no kids playing, no dogs barking. He stopped at a gas station in a small town off the highway. The clerk, inside, was silent, scanning his water bottle and chips without a word. $5, the clerk said, eyes empty. John paid and left, glancing around. A pod sat in the corner of the lot, half hidden by weeds. His stomach dropped. He kept driving. No destination now, just away. The radio played news. National productivity at record highs. Crime rates near zero. The anchor's voice was flat, like the ones in New York. John turned it off. He ate a granola bar, crumbs falling on his lap. The road stretched on, empty except for cars moving in perfect sync. By evening, he reached a motel off a rural exit. The sign flickered, half the letters burned out. He parked, grabbed his backpack, and went inside. The clerk, an older man, handed him a key. "Room 12, he said, no emotion. John nodded, avoiding the man's eyes. In the room, he locked the door, checked the windows. The bed was lumpy, the carpet stained. He sat on the edge eating chips, the crunch loud in the silence. He turned on the TV, more news, same robotic tone. "America thrives," the anchor said. John muted it. He checked his phone. No signal now. He lay back, staring at the ceiling. The room smelled of mildew. He heard a faint rustling outside, like leaves on pavement. He got up, looked through the peephole. Nothing, just darkness. He went to the bathroom to wash his face. The mirror was cracked, his reflection distorted. As he turned on the faucet, he froze. In the corner by the shower was a pod. Small, green, veined, just like the others. It hadn't been there when he checked in. His breath caught. He backed out, shutting the door. He sat on the bed, heart racing. The rustling outside grew louder. Morning came. He hadn't slept. He grabbed his backpack, left the room, and got in the car. The motel clerk stood outside, staring at nothing. John drove. No plan now. The highway was quiet, cars moving in perfect order. He passed another checkpoint, another blank-faced officer waving him through. He ate another granola bar, the taste bland. By noon, he was back in New York. He didn't know why. The city pulled him back, like it wouldn't let go. He parked near his apartment, the streets too quiet. He walked to his building, saw another pod in the alley. Bigger now, veins pulsing. He hurried inside, up the stairs, and locked his door. He sat on the couch, no soup, no TV. The apartment was silent. He checked his phone, still no messages. He thought about the pod in the motel, the ones in the park, Karen's balcony. They were everywhere. He couldn't escape. He lay in bed, eyes open, listening to the city's unnatural quiet. Morning again. Alarm, snooze, bathroom, no toast, no coffee. He didn't dress for work. He sat by the window, watching the street. Mrs. Rodriguez appeared, sweeping the sidewalk, her movements mechanical. Morning, John whispered to himself. No one answered. John woke to the alarm at 6:45 a.m., its buzz a dull drone in his ears. He didn't hit snooze this time. He just lay there, staring at the ceiling, the cracks now familiar like old scars. The apartment was cold, the radiator dead. He felt heavy, like the air was pressing him down. He got up slowly, his body aching, and shuffled to the bathroom. The mirror showed a stranger, pale, eyes hollow, stubble patchy. He didn't brush his teeth. The toothpaste tube was empty anyway, no breakfast today. The bread was stale, the coffee machine unplugged. He stood by the kitchen window looking out at the street. People moved in perfect rows, their steps silent, faces blank. A delivery truck rolled by, the driver staring straight ahead, no radio, no expression. A woman pushed a stroller, the baby inside still, eyes wide but empty. John's hand shook. He didn't bother with a mug. He wore the same clothes from yesterday, gray slacks, white shirt, tie loose around his neck. His shoes were by the door, scuffed and worn. He didn't put them on. He sat on the couch, backpack still packed from his failed escape, untouched by the door. His phone was dead now, no signal, no messages. He hadn't heard from Karen or Mike in days. He didn't expect to. He thought about the pods, Central Park, the alley, Karen's balcony, the motel. They were everywhere, growing, pulsing, ignored by everyone but him. He hadn't gone to work since returning to the city. The office felt like a trap, Lisa's flat mourning, Mr. Harlan's empty gaze. He couldn't go back. But staying here wasn't safe either. He got up, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but he heard a faint rustling, like leaves dragged across the floor. He opened the door slowly. Nothing. Just the smell of cleaning fluid and a faint green glow from under Mrs. Rodriguez's door. His heart skipped. He closed his door, locked it, deadbolt, chain. He sat on the couch again, staring at the wall. The apartment was silent, no TV, no radio. He thought about running again, but where? The city, the towns, the motel, all the same. The pods were spreading, and with them the blank faces. He remembered Karen's voice, flat and cold. "It's fine," he shivered. Around noon he heard a knock. Soft, deliberate. He froze. Through the peephole he saw Mrs. Rodriguez. Her face was wrong, too smooth, eyes too wide. "John," she said, voice flat. "Open the door." He didn't move. She knocked again, slower. "It's time." His breath caught. He backed away, tripping over the coffee table. The knocking stopped, but the rustling grew louder, closer. He ran to the bedroom, shut the door, and pushed a dresser against it. His hands shook as he sat on the bed, the lumpy mattress creaking. He heard the rustling again, now inside the apartment. It was coming from the living room. He didn't dare look. He sat, knees pulled to his chest, listening. Hours passed. The rustling stopped. The apartment was silent again, but it wasn't comforting. He got up, moved the dresser, and opened the bedroom door. The living room was empty, but the air felt wrong, thick. He glanced at the corner by the couch, a pod. Small, green, veined, just like the others. It hadn't been there before. Its surface pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. John backed away, his breath shallow. He ran to the bathroom, slammed the door, and locked it. The mirror showed his terrified face. He turned on the faucet, the water cold against his hands. He splashed his face, trying to think. The pod was in his apartment now. There was no escape. He sat on the bathroom floor, back against the tub. The rustling started again closer, just outside the door. He heard a soft creak, like the pod splitting open. His heart pounded. He didn't move, didn't breathe. The door rattled slightly, then stopped. Silence. He stayed there until night, the room dark except for the faint glow from the streetlights outside. He stood, legs numb, and opened the door. The living room was empty, the pod gone, but something felt off. He walked to the mirror in the hallway. His reflection stared back, but it wasn't right. The eyes were too still, the mouth too straight. He touched his face, and the reflection mirrored him perfectly. Too perfectly. He sat on the couch, head in his hands. Memories flickered. Work, Karen, the subway, the pods. They felt distant, like someone else's life. He tried to remember his parents' faces, but they were blurry. His favorite song, the taste of coffee, the sound of Karen's laugh, gone. He felt empty, like a shell. Morning came, no alarm. He didn't get up. He lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling. The city outside was silent. No traffic, no voices. Just the faint hum of something alive, something growing. He heard footsteps in the hallway, slow and steady. A knock. "John!" a voice said, flat, familiar. It was his voice. He didn't answer. The door opened anyway. A figure stepped in, wearing his clothes, gray slacks, white shirt, faded tie. It had his face, his hair, his eyes. But they were empty, no spark, no life. "It's time," it said, voice flat like Karen's, like Mrs. Rodriguez's. It walked toward him, slow, deliberate. John didn't move. He felt cold, his thoughts slowing. The figure touched his shoulder and a chill spread through him. His vision blurred, his mind fogged. He saw the pot again in the corner, open now, empty. He tried to scream, but no sound came. The figure left, locking the door behind it. John, or what was left, sat on the couch, eyes open, staring at nothing. The city went on, silent, orderly. People worked, ate, slept all the same. No laughter, no tears. Pods grew in alleys, parks, apartments, unnoticed. The takeover was complete, quiet, final. I hope you will like this story very much. To see and tell such stories, subscribe to my channel.